Well, a very good afternoon and a warm welcome to Ballinamore here in Leitrim, where we're back in our smaller studio today, just to have a quick chat. We have a wonderful lineup of guests for you. This will be our last show of this year, and we'll be back in January when we have another wonderful panel of guests. So I'll quickly introduce you to our guests today. We have Geraldine Hewitt from Legacy Mobile Dog Training.
Afternoon, Rory.
Afternoon, Geraldine. We've Becky Bristow from Dogs Trust Ireland.
Hi.
We've Ralph Dunne from the Cavan Pet Crematorium.
Hello, everyone.
We have Sheryl Fawcett, the Tax Fairy, joining us as well. So we really have a lovely mix of guests. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to ask each guest to tell you a little bit about who they are, what they do, and the type of knowledge they're going to be sharing with us today. So, Geraldine, we'll start with yourself.
Thanks, Rory. My name is Geraldine and I run Legacy Mobile Dog Training, and it is exactly what it says on the tin. It's mobile dog training, so I call to clients' houses. Not every dog suits being in a group environment. People are time poor. People might not be able to reach their nearest training facility. So I take all that stress and worry away and call to the client's home where they're relaxed and their puppy is relaxed for training. So much better benefits for a lot of puppies than going into a group session.
That's great. Thanks very much, Geraldine. Next up, we'll hear from Becky Bristow from Dogs Trust Ireland.
Hi, I'm Becky. I run Dogs Trust Ireland, which is a big dog welfare charity. We rescue, rehabilitate, rehome dogs all over Ireland. But what people often don't know is we do a huge amount of campaigning and trying to prevent problems before they arise. And that's actually why I'm on today, because of our End Puppy Farming campaign. But also to have a chat. I'll chat about anything dog related. We're all a bit obsessed with dogs and Dogs Trust, as you can imagine.
Great, thanks very much. Next up then, we're going to have Ralph from Cavan Pet Crematorium.
Well, hello everyone and good afternoon. Thank you, Rory, for the invitation today. My name is Ralph, and along with Bill, we run Cavan Pet Crematorium. So maybe just give you a little bit of a background to my involvement with dogs and how I arrived into this business. It's a little bit long, but I'll keep it brief. In the mid-80s, I got my first show dog, a golden retriever called Ern. Went to our first show. He did very well at it. And from there on, the bug of showing had bitten me. So sometime afterwards, I made him up into a champion. Then later, I got a Clumber Spaniel called Garfield. He eventually won Best in Show in England at the Crufts Centenary Show. And this opened up the door for judging appointments around Ireland, Europe, America, and up until now, it's still happening. But in 2000, Garfield passed away, so I decided to have him cremated, but my options were quite limited. So eventually I found the option that was most suitable for me. I took him up north to have him cremated and returned a few days later for the ashes. But on the way home, I thought that there was a business opportunity here in opening a bespoke pet crematorium for pets and their families. So I made a few inquiries about the project, but timing just wasn't right. And about 5 years ago, I revisited this program and set the ball in motion. And after planning and various things, we opened in March 2020. Sorry for boring everybody with the details.
Not boring at all, Ralph.
I mean, if I remember correctly, Ralph, I think you opened 2 weeks before the actual lockdown hit.
Yes, it was. It was a very stressful time because around that time also my dad took ill with an infection and had to go into hospital, and unfortunately passed away some weeks later. So it has been a very stressful with the COVID. So, it's been a very stressful opening period, but we've hung in there.
Sorry to hear that, Ralph. That's very difficult.
Also joining us is Sheryl Fawcett, the tax fairy. Now, a lot of you will actually know Sheryl as the person who is normally behind the scenes pushing the buttons for my show here. And so we finally convinced her to come in front of the camera and say hello to everyone. So thanks for joining us, Sheryl.
No problem. After a little bit of blackmailing, of course, I had to agree. Obviously, I'm Sheryl Fawcett. I'm the tax fairy. I've worked alongside Rory for the last 7 years and on it alone for the last 5-6 years. And that's about it. That's all I can say about myself. Oh, sorry. Sorry, I'm a bit rambly. I moved here to Ireland. Moved here to Ireland 7 years ago for a part-time opportunity and never went home. I'm English and you're stuck with me. Sorry.
That's great. Thanks very much, Sheryl. Now, we've already had a few comments coming in there. Una Kelly has said, hi, everyone. Melanie Purcell's obviously quite happy to see us chatting about jobs. Pascal Dunne finally managed to drop by. Una's just saying, sorry for your loss. Mark McKell, hi, everyone. Wendy Thompson actually has a question for you, Geraldine.
Okay.
My daughter's dog, who is a Jug, Jack Russell and Pug cross, he has plenty of chewing toys, but he still goes for items you don't really want him chewing. I put my phone down to do something and he stole it before I realised, and he's managed to chew the plastic rubber cover. What should we do to encourage him to only chew his toys?
Okay. And a lot of that as well can be age-based. If he's still a puppy or if he's sort of between puppyhood and 9 to 10 months old, he's going through his teething sessions. His back teeth are bedding into his jawbones. But ideally what we need to do is always make sure we have legal chew toys to hand, so that when your puppy does take something he's not supposed to take, you just distract him and give him a chew he is allowed to take. I call them the 10 commandments of being a dog. If it's on the floor and I can reach it, it's mine. So ideally we need to keep everything out. Sheryl and Rory, you will know from what I'm like.
Yes.
If the puppy can have it, it's the puppy's. So it's up to us just to develop habits that we keep anything that's precious to us out of puppy's reach, as well as the stuff as well. I mean, there could be things that they pick up that are dangerous or poisonous to them. And not being flippant, we don't want them going to see Ralph any sooner than they need to.
No, absolutely agree with you. Absolutely. Hopefully, Wendy, that's a little bit of help to you there. And as I said, at the end, we will put up the contact details.
Absolutely. There's no, yeah.
If you want to get in touch with her, she may be able to offer some more help. Well, before we get into chatting in depth with our guests, I just wanted to make mention, as you all know, I'm heavily involved in the Micro Business Awards. We had a fabulous night last week at the finals for the UK Awards. And we have coming up next year's awards. We are launching the nominations for the 2022 awards on the 1st of December, and entries will be accepted until midnight on the 15th of January. So you have plenty of time over Christmas to write your entry and get your entry submitted. But even before we get to announcing the winners for next year, we have the Ireland and UK finals. And for those, we're all heading over to Scarborough on the 24th of March, and hopefully we'll get to meet a number of businesses there as well. And Geraldine, Wendy's just come back to say he's just turned 1.
Yeah, okay. So if Wendy wants to wait till the end and we get the details, I've no problem. I can contact Wendy for a more in-depth chat.
Yeah, that's great. No problem. We'll put Wendy in touch with you.
Perfect, Wendy.
Yeah. No, and that is very much the way it is, unfortunately. Yeah. Exactly as Geraldine described it. If it's within their reach,
thinking, yeah.
It's theirs. I mean, as Geraldine knows, we have a lovely 20-week-old Labrador puppy who we had just had brand new lino put down in the utility room. we left the puppy in there and he could smell the glue underneath, so he had to find out where the glue was coming from. And the 1-day-old Lino
Is no more.
Is no more. Let's just leave it at that. Absolutely. So, Sheryl, as we're approaching the end of the year, what should people be thinking about in preparation for Q1 of 2022?
Potentially preparing their budgets for their businesses, potential expenses they could accrue, think about preparing for their tax return so that they know early on what they owe, instead of it being October 28th and finding out they have a very big tax liability and wondering where they're going to find the money from. And if you get it done early on, as you know, Rory, if you get it done early on, you know what you owe, and it gives you time to prepare, so you can put a bit aside each month, each week, and then when it comes to the filing deadline, it's a case of, yep, I have the money in the account, go ahead and file with payment, please.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, no, absolutely agree with you. And I think so many people bury their head in their sand when, if they, in the first quarter, if you have your accounts for the previous year done,
yes,
it actually gives great peace of mind and gives you great opportunity to focus on the coming year and how to actually build, right? And I see Monique Walsh has a comment there for you, Sheryl. That's great advice about thinking ahead.
yes.
And it's so important when you're in business when you're trying to succeed, that you get whatever help you can like that.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Can I say something there? I also think it's great that that you can speak to your accountant, as in you, Rory or Sheryl, and get advice very easily, and that you're not going through phone call after phone call trying to make an appointment. Yeah. That you can have instant access within minutes or an hour, and that's very important. That that you have a very much one-to-one again.
Yeah, less stress. Yeah.
And one of our main, I can't think of the word, sorry, my brain's gone blank, but we like it, if a client has a question for us, we like to explain it in layman's terms, so they don't end up ending the phone call thinking, what did I call for? I'm now more confused than before the phone call. It's so that they understand where we're coming from, and so that we're both on the same page.
Yeah, there's no point in being blinded with jargon and science, and if it makes no sense if it only makes sense to the person giving the information, it's the person receiving the information. You have to make sure they ensure it, they understand it.
Yes,
absolutely.
Yeah, I agree.
We all know at this time of the year there's all great excitement and people saying, "Oh, let's get a puppy for Christmas." Now, I know the views of my guest on this. Exactly. I mean, the look on Becky's face alone says more than enough. But if people are thinking, let's leave the C word out of it for now. But people, when they're thinking about getting a puppy, what are the things they should be thinking about?
Okay. Now, my face was more to do with people still buy them as gifts. That's the real problem. I mean, it's not an ideal time to get a puppy at Christmas because there's so much going on in your house. And when you think of like Christmas trees and decorations and presents, it's a very busy time. It's not right to settle a young pup in. But it's not the end of the world. But gifting them is a total no-no. I just couldn't. There's very few things I'm black and white about, but gifting.
That's one of them.
Is one of them, because it's a 12 to 13-year commitment. It's an expensive commitment. It takes time, energy, training. Giving it a gift that requires that much responsibility is, it really needs to be the person who's going to look after their choice. So that's why we say about no dogs as gifts. So getting a puppy, do your research. The first thing is, obviously working for an animal welfare charity, I'm going to say adopt, don't shop. But we do understand there's times when you have a very specific breed in mind. You've researched it. The general characteristics are going to suit your family, or you want the experience of a puppy from 8 to 10 weeks understand that. The thing is, you have to be really careful where you get it from, because a poorly bred puppy is going to cost you a lot in time, money, and tears. If they haven't been properly bred, they're not going to be socialized. So when they get to you, they're either going to cause chaos or hide terrified behind a sofa. Also, they could have very expensive medical issues because they've come from mothers that are completely overbred. So do your research. So first thing I'd say is do a bit of research on the size or type of dog. It doesn't have to be a pedigree. But there are certain things, like the amount that you'd have people that would see a husky on Game of Thrones and suddenly they want a husky and they don't realize all the particular needs of a husky. Or collies. Collies are very active, very mentally active. They need a lot of activity during the day. They need to be kept. It's not even about physical activity, keeping their brains active. Not so great if it's expected to sit at home all day. Never overlook a lurcher or a greyhound. They're so lazy. They really will sit on the sofa all day until you bring them out for a run. So you've decided what potentially kind of puppy or size you want. It's then, where do you get it? Now, online is the quickest way to walk yourself into trouble, because it's virtually impossible to verify where the puppies come from, with one exception. Petbond.ie are a group of vets that completely verify that the mother and the pups are treated appropriately, and are the only place dogs trust, and a number of other rescues recommend. Also, go to your local vet. They will know people in the location who are breeding, who are responsible breeders, perhaps know about an accidental litter. Pity it's an accident, but look, these things happen. And when we were growing up, that's where we always got a dog, went down to the vet, know anyone who's got some pups. And it was definitely Heinz 57 varieties. You never knew what you were getting. Be so careful about going online. It's back to that thing of you just don't know where it's actually coming from. If you do go down that route, make absolutely sure you visit the pup more than once, because that sort of quick transaction tells you this pup is just bred for profit. The person selling it may or may not be the actual breeder. There's not a lot of care gone into this. A genuine breeder is not going to let you walk away on the first visit, because they actually want to interview you.
Yeah.
They want to know more about you. If you're being asked for cash, often that's a dodgy sign. It's not always. Look, to be fair, we know in Ireland a lot of cash transactions, but just be careful about that one. Make sure you actually go somewhere and visit and see the mother. Ideally the father as well, not always possible, but check that the mother is actually the mother of those pups. I mean, I've seen photographs from people and I go, look at that. The mother is clearly not even lactating. So, she didn't have those pups. That's just a random dog that was brought in. Yeah. I'm sure, Geraldine, you're nodding there. Do you want to throw some comments in?
Yeah, well, it's true what you said about a good breeder. I know a breeder who has a 3-year waiting list because he breeds his, Ralph, you would probably know as well what it's like for to have a waiting list for good puppy owners, and that he will not let puppies out unless they visited the puppies at least 3 times before they bring their puppy home. They get live streamed videos regularly. The puppies are weighed 2 and 3 times a day. They're fed to suit their weights. He's just the most incredible setup, but he's very strict about who he will let his pups go to, which is only right. And I will say as well, people seem to think if you've purebred puppies also aren't always well-bred puppies. So there will still be people selling purebred puppies for a premium price who still won't have hip scores, elbow scores, eye checks, anything done like that. So I don't know how can we start educating people? I mean, I live in Cavan. I'm like Ralph, I live in Cavan, and within a 10-kilometre radius of me are three industrial size puppy farms. I have multiple clients who have purchased puppies from these puppy farms, and the way they look at it is, we're taking that puppy into a good home, not realizing they're making space for another poor puppy. So where do we educate these people? They're doing it with the best of intentions, trying to help that puppy. How do we educate them?
Yes, I would agree with you there. I think part of the main problem is the general public. They're they're demanding these puppies and are paying crazy amounts of money for, dare I say, Heinz 57 mongrels.
Yes, I've heard 2,100
Ridiculous.
for a cockapoo.
Yes, ridiculous. Now, my involvement in breeding is very limited, even though I've been involved in dogs for a very long time. I've only had about 4, maybe 5 litters of puppies in my total life. And I've only ever had a litter when I've wanted something myself
Yes.
to show. And 2 of my last litters over the last number of years, there were 4 puppies in each litter. And I kept 2 of them. And 2 of them went to Scotland. And 2 from another, the second litter, one went to the owner of the stud dog, and I sold one. So, you know,
you didn't make any money out of that, out of that litter. Do you know what I mean? And yes, you did it for the betterment of the breed.
Yes, and I was only breeding because I wanted something myself.
Yeah.
And the other thing, I often get phone calls from people inquiring about puppies, and the one thing I will always say to them, you know, have they ever seen some of these dogs in reality or as adults? And quite often they'll say no, or they'll say, for a Clumber Spaniel, for example, do they come in any other colours? So you know instantly they're only looking at their instant one picture. They've done no research. So what I would always say to them would be 2 things. Go to a general championship show where you can see all the dogs that are on display there, talk to some of the breeders there, see the puppy or see the dogs at their different stages of life, from puppies to adults to veterans. Just get a feel for what the breed looks like in numbers, or go to your local charity or rescue farm, wherever it is, and see what you can pick up there at a rescue centre. And quite often you never hear of the people again, because you're not telling them really what they want to hear by telling them, oh yes, we have a puppy, you can get this, that, or the other. But that's not what
it is that quick fix that they want. Like, I had a man ring me a couple of years back on a Saturday morning saying that his daughter had made her communion. So she was 7 or 8 and she had a ball of money. And what breed would you recommend me is good for a family? Now, I couldn't in all conscience tell him, go get this, this, and this, when I knew nothing, absolutely nothing about him. But I did say to him, I could tell you straight out, a good breeder will not let you arrive up with a ball of money on a Saturday morning and hand you out a puppy. And he goes, oh, okay, well, what do I do? My daughter really wants one. And I said, well, your daughter is 7. You need to be an adult. If she's that desperate, I said, for something to cuddle, bring her to Smith's and buy her a teddy. Do you know what I mean? Now, I'm not there to make friends with people like that. Do you know what I mean? That is the reality. People want the quick fix. We're so used to the likes of next day delivery, Amazon Prime. And it's the same with our shopping. We get our shopping delivered. People can't understand why they should have to wait for a puppy. And this is the supply and demand that feeds this business.
Yeah, and I think the danger too is all puppies are gorgeous little balls of fluff. And that's why all these puppy farmers are so intense that puppies are gone between 6 and 8 weeks old, because that's when puppies are so attractive. And people don't realize what size they will grow to, their behavioral problems. You know, all they see is this little ball of fur, and they think it's gorgeous.
Puppies are tough. Puppies are hard work. I'm sure Sheryl and Rory will agree. Puppies are hard work, and especially this time of year, you don't want to be out at 2 o'clock in the morning bringing your dog out for a pee break in January and February. Do you know what I mean? Puppies are tough work, but they see the cuteness.
That's Rory's job.
They see people see the ads and they see the beautiful photographs of the little fuzzy balls, like Ralph said, and they see the cuteness, and they don't see beyond the cuteness. They don't see for the next 15 years of vet bills, insurance, exercise, training, food, everything that's involved.
And that's just when things go right.
Yes. Without your vet bills. Absolutely. Kennels. Kennels, sorry. Just while I'm here, can I just say something? For anybody out there who is thinking of going away or visiting people over Christmas and need their dog boarded, can they please start booking their kennels, whoever they go to, now, sooner rather than later? Because last year was very quiet for a lot of kennels because most people weren't traveling for Christmas. This year is totally different. So please book your kennels sooner rather than later.
Yeah, absolutely.
Good idea.
But Becky, at the moment now, Becky, Dogs Trust have a campaign in relation to puppy farms versus ethical trainers as such.
Yes.
Or ethical breeders.
Each year we run a Christmas campaign to highlight any particular dog welfare issues. For a number of years, it was simply please adopt, don't shop. It was just to really highlight the amount of dogs that were left sitting in dog pounds and then being taken in by rescues when people go that route. And that's been quite successful. Now, and COVID made it worse. It's the intensive overbreeding in cruel conditions of dogs. So our Christmas campaign this year is #end puppy farming. And this, Geraldine, is really to feed into, to try and get the public, because we work with government departments on legislation and enforcement, but at the end of the day, the public are driving the demand.
Yeah.
And it's the cockapoos, the cavachons, and they're small and fluffy and they look like walking teddy bears. And I completely understand.
They're
like,
beautiful puppies.
They're beautiful. They really are. Yeah. But they're ending up, I mean, I'm sure you've talked to other vets. We've talked to vets who are going, they're just coming in the door. They've got parvo. They're not vaccinated. They die. They're blind. They've got muscular issues. I mean, and it's just a very small sample. I mean, then the behavioural issues.
Yes.
We did a private survey of vets around Ireland, and a very frightening number of vets are being asked to put very young dogs to sleep for behavioural issues. And that's not required. You don't need to do that. You know, Geraldine, you do some good training.
Yeah, I see a lot of
effort in, but then
resource guarding and being handled. A lot of these puppies, that's what they suffer from.
Right. Well,
they
Geraldine,
haven't been touched.
Yeah, just before we came on here, Geraldine, you had a very interesting statistic there for us in relation to puppy farms. Maybe you'd share that with everyone.
I'm nearly afraid to put my head over the parapet in case of what I unleash. Okay, so within 10 kilometers of my house in Cavan, there are 3 industrial size. They cannot. That's all they can be called: industrial, commercial.
They're 300 plus.
Yeah, so one of them is 300 plus. The next one beside me is 180 plus, and then there's a third one with 45 plus, maximum 45. So we're going to say 300 and 180, just for example, is 480 breeding bitches. If each of those breeding bitches has 1 litter with 5 puppies a year, that's 2,400 puppies. 2,400 puppies from 1 litter. If at the average price, now bear in mind this price is here from 600 up to 1,800. So I've averaged it out at €800. From 1 litter from all their dogs, that's €1.9 million every single year. And I know for a fact that they were selling very few dogs for that price. The dogs were all up over like €1,000. The 1,800 ones, for example, if every one of those dogs cost €1,800, that would be 4.3 million from 1 litter.
I'll give
you know, Becky, they'll have 2 litters sometimes.
Oh, easily, yeah.
You know, yeah, shocking.
Don't survive. We got the numbers of new puppies microchipped in Ireland in 2020. We multiplied it by an average price for last year. I can't off the top of my head remember. It was like €1,200. It came to 187 million.
Yeah,
187 million was the verified dog puppy market.
And verified is the word. Yeah, yeah.
You then could probably take a third of that would be ones that are not verified or being smuggled in the UK for
under
sale.
the radar. Yeah,
It's a huge market.
Absolutely huge.
It's supply and demand. People want the fluffy pups. There's someone there to supply them, and they're treated like chickens. I mean, we wouldn't treat chickens as bad as those dogs.
There is no difference. Like, I don't eat meat, so I'm very anti-commercial farming anyway. But it's exactly the same. They see no difference to these poor animals than they do cattle, sheep, pigs, or chickens.
And I know people, sorry, Ralph. I know people will say there is no difference, and a slight difference with dogs is that we breed them to be companions.
Yes.
So we breed them to need our company and to be social with us. So to then keep their whole lives in a cage or a box.
Yes, absolutely.
And that That's the slight difference with dogs versus.
Yeah, they're the first animal we ever domesticated. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
We've used them as bed warmers, as foot warmers, as everything, as opposed to we have little hot water bottles. Well, I still do.
Yeah.
But
Probably
I
should say
think,
that.
so I think
Sorry,
again, it comes back to the general public. They're the people that really, really need to be educated to see exactly the side of puppy
Yes.
farming and puppies. People are innocently buying puppies. They're not realizing what's going on behind the scenes. Now, I'm actually shocked some of those numbers and statistics that you're talking about. You just don't think of those things.
And that's all freely available online. You can just Google that, and that's freely available for anybody who wanted to see it. I didn't have to do anything covert or, do you know what I mean? To find out that information is out there for anybody who wants to find it, which is what makes it more shocking.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Crazy.
Again, I would appeal to anyone, if you know anyone who's thinking about getting a dog, do first of all look at the rescue, because a lot of these rescues do have those little cute puppies there who, for one reason or another, need to be rehomed. And go and talk to the rescues, make contact with them. I'm sure they'll be able to point you in the right direction. If they don't have something, they will be able to find you an ethical breeder.
I think as well what happens is people think dogs in rescue are broken dogs. They're dogs that have issues, and they aren't necessarily always broken dogs. They're dogs, for example, for people maybe who had the landlord all of a sudden changed the conditions of allowing pets into the premises, and they've had to move back home for work or something. They're ill, they're unable to watch their pets anymore, and they don't have any other people who can watch their pets for them. Pets in rescue are not always broken pets. There's and you know, Becky, there's any amount of excuses why dogs end up there.
Yeah, and we take them all in good faith. We don't judge people for what the reason they tell us. So we get a whole range. We do get some dogs that have been badly abused, and they're going to need to stay with us a bit to be settled down and to recover, or would need a very understanding new owner. However, we are also getting plenty of lockdown dogs that
pandemic puppies.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, people are realizing, this is actually, particularly if they're hitting their teenage age, and they didn't put the effort in with training. But look, some fabulous, very young dogs available. They would need a bit of training. That's true. But you'll get a fabulous dog. And look, all dogs need training.
All dogs need.
We will start the process when they're with us. But I would be very disheartened if people thought that all rescue dogs were broken. That's
and I think that's a mindset we need to change, because I hear that over and over again. Oh no, I wouldn't go for a rescue because you don't know his history.
I'd rather that than a puppy from a puppy farm that as a desperately sick mother has never been socialized.
Absolutely. So we need to change that mindset. But how do we do it?
Right. Well, listen, unfortunately, I have to take a very quick ad break, and we'll be back to you straight after this.
In recent years, our Christmas glass baubles have been hugely popular. They can be personalised in any way you choose. Because these treasured keepsakes are each handmade, you can include any names, dates, or messages that are personal to you. These handmade delights are now available to order on our website, mailcalligraphy.ie, or by calling me, Maggie, at 086 1718 330.
We are delighted to introduce our personalised festive stemware. These wine glasses are ideal gifts and can include names, dates and occasions, or you could choose your family surname and raise your decor to the next level. Produced here in County Mayo, there will be no issues with customs charges or supply chain problems. Order online at mayocalligraphy.ie or call 086 1718 330.
And once again, a huge thanks to Maggie from Mayo Calligraphy for sponsoring the show this month. I have a couple more comments coming in for the panels we'll just to run through very quickly before we get back into general discussion. John Gibson saying, hi, I'll love to hear about dogs.
Thanks, Johnny.
Una has another question for Geraldine. Her mum has an 11-year-old Jack Russell with severe separation anxiety. They've tried everything with the vet, including meds, sprays, oils. Any advice? Mum is there full time.
Okay, and I think the last line is very telling, because mum is there full time. And has that been like that all through the dog's life, that he's never got used to spending time by himself? Separation anxiety is a really, really tough one. If Una wants to get in touch with me on my Facebook page, I'll give her the details later on. Absolutely, I have no problem at all. I will give her a call and chat her through some stuff. Anything like that behaviour-wise is not like teaching a dog to sit. It's much more complex, and there could be any number of issues causing it. So, Una, I will chat to you later on today if that suits you.
That's great. Thanks very much. Wendy's come back again to say, when we were talking about the number of puppies, not to mention the increase in puppies, dogs being stolen.
Absolutely, Wendy. Yeah,
flying up.
Rory will know. Last year, I stopped putting any pictures up, any photos up of puppies that I was training or teaching or walking, anything like that. There's been nothing like that on my Facebook page for well over a year now. I don't wear branded uniforms. I don't have any signage on the car anymore for when I'm parking outside people's homes. It's not worth the risk to me that I could inadvertently be telling some potential thief that there's a puppy in that house.
Yeah. Monique is asked. Yeah.
Sorry, Becky.
Just back to the previous lady. If you go onto dogstrust.ie, we have a pack called Life After Lockdown that people can download, and it's specifically to help work with people with dogs with separation anxiety. So it's.
And can I just say as well? Sorry,
might help get the family involved as well.
Yeah. For Becky as well, for Dogs Trust, you do an amazing app on SoundCloud. All the amazing background noises for dogs. So coming up to Christmas time and Halloween, there's bangers and sparklers and stuff going off, and the household sounds and stuff to get puppies used to all these noises, especially the poor little fellas who came from puppy farms who wouldn't be used to household sounds. So yeah, so that app is brilliant, Becky. I recommend it so much. You've no idea. It's brilliant.
Right.
Oh, good.
And
Good.
Johnny's come back to say, dog may be a man's best friend, but is man a dog's best friend?
Yes, that is the big question, isn't it, Johnny? Yes.
That's it. Monique has another question, and this is one that I think I'm very interested to see where the answers will go with this. In what circumstances does the panel feel that putting a dog to sleep is justified?
Okay, I'll hop in there. I think when the dog's quality of life is affected, and I did have an experience a few years ago of putting a dog to sleep for behavioural issues, and it affected me immensely, but it got me where I am today.
You okay? Okay, take a deep breath. It's very distressing.
It is indeed. And
I'll have a chat now. Geraldine, have a deep breath. It's very difficult. It's something we have to face a lot in Dogs Trust, because it's an absolute last resort for us. I mean, as I'm sure many people know, I mean, our entire mission is about avoiding unnecessary destruction of dogs. And obviously, there's veterinary scenarios. They're relatively clear cut, and you know, we try not to let the dog get to a point where it's suffering too much. We don't until the last possible minute. We really try to give it the best possible end. Surrounded by carers that loved it as well, so the dog isn't anxious. Behavioral is the really, really tough one. It's very rare for us, but there are scenarios where the behavior is coming from something in the dog where the dog is not healthy and we can't train. So if it's regular severe bites, and we've tried various options, because it's not just behavioral options, there's veterinary options for dogs that are very distressed. I haven't seen it in my time in Dogs Trust, but I know it's a potential we have if we feel that the dog is genuinely unhealthy, not so much in a physical way, but mentally. It's been so tormented maybe by previous owners, so badly abused, that nothing we try is making its life easier. So it's not so much about what the dog does, it's do we feel that dog is genuinely constantly suffering. And we can't ease it and we can't work with it.
Yeah.
It's like I say, in my 2.5 years, We haven't done it to the best of my knowledge. I usually know about all of them, but we do sometimes have that conversation about dogs. Is there anything else we can try? Is this dog so distressed that it's not? We talk about a life worth living.
Yeah,
I think
I think as well, we with older dogs, for example, we tend to hang on to our older dogs longer than we should because we do that for us.
Yes.
Don't we?
I think also there comes a time when you look into the dog's eye and you can see there's no longer a light there, and the time has just come, and it just happens that you have to make that decision for your pet because you don't want to see them in stress. Sorry?
You know when they've given up.
Yes.
Yeah. And you don't want to see them struggling going to the toilet and not being able to
absolutely.
eat. So that is the time I feel when you do need to make that decision.
Yeah.
Not very easy to make, even though you know it's the right thing to do.
I think for myself and Sheryl, we were very, very lucky. In the November last year, Daisy passed away on us, and we were with the vets. We had tried a whole range of things, and the vet was saying, look, we can do another round of medication, might give her another month. And she said, let me just check her vitals and we'll make a decision then. She turned around to pick up her stethoscope, turned back around, Daisy had laid down and gone to sleep.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So it was a case of she went on her terms and that was that.
Yeah.
Which is lovely. Yeah.
There's incredible ethical decisions required when it comes to this because as humans we have the power to do this. So it's not really that clear cut as people think. You really have to have a good sense of the dog and the dog's level of suffering as well. And is this fair? So for example, in dog stress we don't do chemo on dogs because they're not in a home environment. If a pet owner chooses to do that, their dog is at home with them, they can comfort them all the time. We can't give the dog the level of care that's needed to get them comfortably through.
Yeah, and chemo is tough. Like chemo is tough on us, and we can explain it to ourselves. How do you explain that to your dog?
Exactly.
And then, and Rory and Sheryl, we would have spoken about this lots of times. We're extending the life maybe a month or two. Is it worth, instead of remembering those precious few months as good months?
Absolutely agree.
And by doing the extra treatment, are they actually going to be in more pain? You don't know, because unlike us, we can say when we're not feeling well. The dog can't tell us. But obviously we know when our pets aren't well because we're around them all the time, so we know when they're not quite themselves. But they can't come out and rightly say, look, I'm in pain right now, help me.
Yeah, and Becky, you're exactly right. You can't spend that time. You're not in that lucky position that you've got extra hours and extra bodies to spend time with those poor dogs.
No. So it's not, I wouldn't say we're against it. We just don't do it. That's just because it's not right for dogs that are in our care. But like each individual owner needs to work that through with their vet and knowing their own dog. So it's a very individual choice. It's not
absolutely
the right one.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So while Monique's answer Monique's question was a good question, there's just so many variables to that answer, isn't there?
Absolutely. It's
and it's highly emotive.
Yeah, Geraldine, we have another question here for you. Have you any tips? I'm now looking after a 16-month baby. I want my dogs to get used to her being around, but they either get very excited barking or they run away. They are used to a quiet house, a Cavalier King Charles Spaniel, and I've been introducing them slowly.
Okay, again, I can definitely organise a call later on. But at 16 months, the baby's probably starting to toddle around, crawl around. I don't have kids. I have no idea what their milestones in life are like. I don't know. I'm just guessing that at 16 months, he's probably crawling or toddling. And the dogs obviously were there before him. So in an ideal world, the planning would have been done before baby arrived, but we are where we are. But I can definitely absolutely chat her through and give her some advice on how to do it. It's all about active supervision, basically, that the baby and dog's never left on their own, that when you are being supervised, that you're actively supervising, that you're not watching the telly, you're not chatting, you're not checking your phone, your tablets, that you are constantly watching where the baby is, and that there's no chance that baby and dog get in between. I have a little saying, baby, toddler and doggies on the scene, put an adult in between. That's how I remember it. If there's toddlers and doggies on the scene, put an adult in between. So if they're crawling on the floor, fine. But at least if you're on the floor with them, you can pick the baby up, if you think.
Yeah.
But that's absolutely no problem. I can chat away, no problem.
I mean, the best dog in the world is still may get taunted into reacting.
Absolutely.
They're having fingers stuck in their eye or their tail pulled, and toddlers aren't very
grab, yeah.
Yeah,
they no concept.
They don't have good motor function, so they can really actually hurt dogs quite easily.
Yeah.
And there's another thing as well. Sorry, we're going off topic again. I'm sorry about this, but there's another thing. Like Becky, you'll probably see it as well. All these Facebook posts of kids climbing on the dog, sitting on the dog, lying beside the dog. It just makes me cringe, and that's the next thing we need to sort out. These photos aren't fun. They're an explosion waiting to happen in my mind. That dog has a fuse like everybody else, and just because
I'm sure you can see it. What we're trying to do, we're trying to put out information. You'll see it on our website about understanding dog behavior. You'll see it. The dog is licking its lips. It's pulling its head away. It's got the
ears are pinned back, whites of his eyes.
Every signal that it is not happy. And so dogs only growl or bite. They escalate because they've tried everything else. They've tried to move away.
And a dog who growls is a good dog in my book, because he's letting you know, I'm not happy, give me a bit of space.
Yeah.
But a lot of dogs get a slap for growling.
Yeah, and unfortunately, the poor dog is blamed for the situation, when reality is it's the parents and the family is the cause.
Every single house I go to, if there's a puppy and children, I bring handouts with pictures and body language for dogs, and then I'll recommend some books that study body language for dogs in a child-friendly way. It's hugely important.
Yeah. There was just a little comment. Sorry to go slightly back. Zara, I'm so sorry about your dog. It is a member of the family. It is dreadfully upsetting, and I'm delighted to hear that you access bereavement counselling, because often other people don't understand the depth of the grief and how badly it can impact you and your life. So it was a smart thing to do, to seek some help with that.
Absolutely. Ralph, we have a question for you now from Ona. Is there a time limit on how quickly someone needs to contact you when a pet passes away? No, certainly within a day or two after the pet has passed. Sometimes it takes a little bit of time for people, especially if it's happened quite suddenly. They don't realise, or they just haven't come to terms with it. And but certainly the second day or so, we would like to have some contact with the people. But usually what we have found so far is people are planning in advance. They'll make a phone call or a text or an email, and they will ask, what is the procedure? How much notice do we need? But we always try to accommodate the family, whether it be late in the evening, because sometimes they may only have had a late appointment with the vet, so we're quite willing to meet them here at the crematorium at 7 o'clock, 8 o'clock, maybe even 9 o'clock, whatever they need, we accommodate them, because we really don't have an opening and closing time. Yes, but certainly after the pet has passed, certainly, 2 to 3 days would be the maximum, really, because at that stage, it can become a little bit unpleasant for everybody.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So, as you all know, coming on this show, there's one question that every guest is always asked, and that is, what is your favourite Lite Bite lunch? So, Becky, we'll start with yourself.
Oh, I'm really boring. This time of year, I love a big bowl of soup and a cheese sandwich. But I love the bread in the sandwich. I think the cheese is just the excuse for having loads of fresh bread. So don't give them the soup. That's me.
Yeah. And Ralph, what about yourself?
Oh, I'm very traditional. I love my main lunch, not just a snack. I like my potatoes.
You want your dinner?
Full dinner at dinner time, yes. Yeah. But if I was out somewhere, probably a very nice toasted cheese and ham sandwich, which we get from a fabulous cafe here beside us, Cafe Nua.
Great.
Where's that, Ralph?
In Belturbet.
In Belturbet. Okay.
Yeah, fabulous. Worth a trip to Belturbet.
Maybe it's only 10 minutes away. It's no distance.
That's it. Yep. Yeah.
Geraldine, maybe the day you're going in to see Ralph, we'll slip in and give their toast a test.
And the lovely pastries as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And Geraldine, what about yourself?
I like nothing better than a nice fresh Greek salad. I love me bits of feta and my tomatoes and my olive oil, even in wintertime. Love it.
And Sheryl, for you?
Well, as many people who know us, Rory, we have our main meal in the middle of the day, and then a light bite.
Ralph is moving to Ballinamore.
And then we have a light bite in the evening. But I'm super obsessed with something at the moment. It's a strange combination, but it's something I really like. It's a crumpet with a little bit of butter and a fried egg on top.
Ooh. Ooh.
See, I'd have to put Marmite on the crumpet.
Okay.
Controversial.
Yes.
Oh, a crumpet slathered in butter. Yum, yum.
Oh,
Yes.
Yummy.
Well, actually, a rather bizarre scenario. Myself and Sheryl have actually been away for the last few days working. And we actually encountered a hotel yesterday morning in Belfast who informed us that due to supply chain issues, they had no eggs. And Sheryl had been looking, for a week, Sheryl had been looking forward to her crumpet with fried egg.
Yeah.
Wow, no eggs.
No eggs.
Wow.
So is
that a Brexit thing, or do we know what it is?
We don't seem to know, because when I spoke to a duty manager later asking, listen, do you want me to bring a half dozen in for our breakfast tomorrow morning? And he would seem totally dumbfounded, as he had actually gone to get some the day before because none had come in the supplies. So he didn't understand why there wasn't any for breakfast, but
that's bizarre, isn't it? No eggs.
Yeah.
No eggs.
Wow.
Certainly
I'd
an
nice
unusual
eggs
one.
Benedict, in fairness. I'd be gutted.
Yes. Well,
can I ask a question? So,
thank you very much. That's lovely. Thank you so much, Una.
Rory, can we ask you, what would your light lunch bite be?
Whatever I'm lucky enough that Sheryl will make for.
Very, very diplomatic.
That's very smart answer. Very smart answer. Yeah.
No, as I said, I'm totally spoiled. I finished the show here. I do all the close down on everything, make sure that all the recordings are going out properly, and I start the downloads then to send on to everyone afterwards. And I go home, and Sheryl will have a nice cup of coffee waiting for me, and whatever it is she's spoiling me with today.
Very good.
So there are benefits to Sheryl working from home as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely there is. And so, as I said, I mean, if I'm away and I'm going to grab something quickly, again, a nice hearty bowl of vegetable soup with some nice crusty brown bread with
crusty
it.
bread.
See, that's what I'm off to have now.
Crusty bread.
Sounds really good. So, Ralph, tell me a little bit about the life of a cremator. What, from your point of view, what's it like when somebody arrives in with a pet and you can understand how emotional they are feeling?
Well, yes, it can be quite stressful initially when you meet the people at the door, take them in, get the details of their pet, and then they're usually quite distressed. But we arrange the pet in the quiet room. They go into the quiet room and have some time in there. And when they come back out into the reception, you can see they're in a different state of mind. They're more content. They're more relaxed. They're more accepting. And then they'll start to talk a little bit about their pet, what it meant to them, some of the little traits that the pet used to do. And then they'll go off and then they return back then for the ashes, later that day or the next day. And they'll come in a different frame of mind. They're much more upbeat. They know they're now coming back to collect their ashes for their pet, and they're in a different frame of mind, more content, more accepting, and probably less stressed. Now, they're still sad, and that sadness and loss will still remain there, but they're in a better frame of mind to deal with it. And they also have the reassurance that it has been a totally individual cremation, and that they're getting all of their own ashes, not just part token amount. They're getting all of their pet back, and that's the most important thing. And that the whole process has been dealt with dignity and compassion, and that they know that we're dealing with their pet as if it was our own.
Yes,
that's basically it. And
I think that's very important to people, to have that peace of mind that in leaving the pet with you, it is going to get every bit as much care as they would have given it themselves.
Oh, exactly. And again, we try to keep everything in a, dare I say, a price bracket that is accessible to everybody. We don't, we try to keep it very realistic.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And then to Becky and Geraldine, what would you be saying to people who are thinking about starting training a dog? What are the first things they should be thinking about?
I'm not
Becky,
a dog trainer, so you're going to have to give that one to Geraldine.
Okay.
Sorry.
Okay. Ideally, before you even find a trainer, good trainers are booked up for weeks and months in advance. Find a trainer. Ensure that your trainer is a force-free trainer, that they use science-based methods, that there's no harsh methods being used on your puppies, that it's done with love, that your puppy enjoys the training. And ideally, before you get your puppy and even start your training, I would do a puppy proof of your house. Get down on your hands and knees as if you were a puppy and look for cables, look for mobile phones, look for shoes, anything that's on the floor that your puppy might reach. That's what I'd be doing before I even brought my puppy home. Have the bed set up, have everything in place. Instead of rushing out the day, you collect your puppy. I still have to buy him a bed. I still have to get his food and his bowls and his collars and his leads. Have that all done in advance.
We still do that with Snickers. If we know we're going to be out for quite a while, we look around. I mean, Snickers is 4 years old.
Yes.
And if she sees something she wants to eat, she will eat it.
Yeah, they're opportunists. Absolutely.
Yes. Yes. So it's a case of, can she grab it, put it out the way?
Yes, and they have great memories. They have great memories. If they avoid getting something this time, they certainly will wait their opportunity to get the next available opportunity.
I brought Brody for a walk years ago over to Woody's, and as we were coming out of the estate I live in, he stuck his head under a bush and found a piece of KFC, and he ate it. Every single time we pass by that shrub, he still sticks his head in, because that's the amazing KFC shrub. There may be another one today. They forget nothing. Nothing. He'll still stick his head in. Might be there today. Yeah.
Absolutely. So, unfortunately, the clock has nearly beaten us. So, I just want to ask each of you very quickly, how can people contact you if they're looking for more information, or in the case of Dogs Trust, people, if anyone is able to provide any support? I know funding is always difficult to obtain, so any support people can ask, we would ask you, please, and do consider Dogs Trust for it. But so, Becky, what's the best way for people to contact Dogs Trust?
So the website, dogstrust.ie. And if you want to email us, inquiries@dogstrust.ie. I will say we're a bit slow on the email at the moment, because like everywhere in the country, we're understaffed. We're having challenges there. But there's lots of things you can access. We put as much as we can on the website so everyone can access all the information. We do have dog training videos of purchasing a puppy. So there's pretty much everything there. If you want to get in touch with me personally, the best way is actually LinkedIn. So you'll find me. Becky Bristow is a slightly unusual name in Ireland, surname. So you'll find me easy enough. I had short hair in the picture, though. That's the only difference. My lockdown achievement, apart from staying alive, was growing my hair.
Was growing your hair.
Yeah.
And Ralph, anyone that wants to contact you?
Okay, well, the simplest way to contact us is on Facebook, Cavan Pet Crematorium. You'll find phone number and email address there, and that's the easiest and simplest way.
That's great. And Geraldine?
Exactly
Anyone
like
wants to
Ralph said,
contact
Facebook, Legacy Mobile Dog Training, the email address and contact details are there as well.
That's great. Sheryl, contact the Tax Fairy.
I have to follow suit. It's definitely Facebook for me. Either drop me a message through Facebook, or my number is there, and I think my email is there.
Great. Well, listen, to all the guests that have joined me this year and to my guests today, I want to say a huge thank you very much to them all. Really appreciate hosting them all. This is, as I said, is the final episode for this year. We will be back with you all on the 6th of January, when among the panel joining us will be Pádraig Olgo Gallagher to give us loads of tips for Valentine's menus. So we will see you all then and look forward to it. Thanks very much.
Bye.
Bye, everybody.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you. Bye.